on the Facebook and on the YouTube. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I know people are slowly chiming in to the webinar, possibly here on Zoom or on live. They might notice a new, fresh, clean face next to me here, and that would be Mike. He's normally behind the scenes. Say hi, Mike. He's our producer extraordinaire when it comes to these webinars. So he's normally kind of helping out with some of the live stream stuff and a lot of the video stuff on our team. And Mike is filling in today as Craig has a little scratchy throat and a little raspy voice and some hacking. It's probably be better for the crowd to not have to listen to that. So we got Mike here to kind of help us out. And Mike is knowledgeable of the scams that we've all seen and heard. So
yeah, I have been scammed and I've almost been scammed. So
yeah, we all got stories. So yeah, we'll get going. We'll kick this off. Mike's on the live stream, so if anybody has any questions on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to ask any comments, any questions in the comments. We're kind of on top of that, as well as here within Zoom. If you happen to be on the webinar, feel free to put any Q&As or anything in the chat that you might have. We are absolutely open for answering any maybe questions or anything that you might want to kind of add to the conversation, because today we're talking about scams. And as much as normally we tend to talk about marketing stuff and things that are directly tied in with businesses and things like that, we thought really just a friendly kind of PSA about like scams and what to look for, what to think about, how to think about it, just would just be really kind of important to have. And Mike, you we were talking earlier and you said you kind of had an example if you want to kind of share.
Yeah, well, this happened just this week. Luckily I didn't fall for it, but it wouldn't have been the first time. But I've been doing a lot of work on our patio, and so I've been going to Lowe's 6 times in the past week, which was what happens when you do a home project, right? You go there, you're like, I got everything I need. You don't have everything you need. You got to keep going back. So I had the credit card situation. So I signed up for that. So there's been a lot of emails with Lowe's about that, ordering off their website. All of those have emails. So I've just been getting a lot of Lowe's emails in general. And then lo and behold, this email comes through in the middle of the night. So I wake up and I'm checking my email. I'm still groggy, haven't had the coffee yet.
Yeah,
and I something like, you've won, or fill out this survey and win a prize or whatever. And I started to click the link. It looked real enough to me. And then I realized, wait a minute, your default stance is to trust no one when it comes to the internet. I am the conspiracy theorist from the X-Files. I trust absolutely nothing I see online. So I checked the email. Sure enough, it is not coming from a Lowe's email whatsoever. Not only that, I think there's 20 other people that are on the email list as CCs or just directly mailed out to 20 people, which typically when you're a big business and you're mailing out to your mailing list, that's not going to be how it shows.
Correct.
So yeah, that is a scam and I get a ton of those every single week. It just, this one happened to come in at the right moment and I almost fell for it.
Oh yeah. You'll get similar ones, right? Sometimes you'll get a text message right from Amazon saying, oh, your recent order has been put on hold while we verify your credit card. Please click this link to put your credit card in. And I in the world of the pandemic and what was happened, I mean, I am buying almost everything on Amazon anyway. So almost, if you send me that daily, I will probably think it's real because I probably made a recent Amazon purchase. And I got one of those, very similar situation. It happened to be within a few hours of me making a rather larger purchase than normal. I think it was like a computer or something that I had gotten that was probably a little bit more. And I was like, oh, this isn't crazy. And then I remembered, wait, Amazon's not set up with my phone number. So why would I get this text message? And, again, quickly realized, okay. And in those situations, what we always, and definitely like even the tech savvy people can sometimes fall for these things, right? It's not crazy. But what we would always recommend, right, is that hard pause like you did, right? And probably logging into maybe either the credit card service or Amazon or whatever it is. Because I'll tell you this, if they want money or they're looking for you to pay something, or you gotta, they obviously want you to interact with them. They'll probably put alerts within your accounts, within some of the things that you have going on, that you'll be able to get to those. So we always just kind of have that, like, cool, don't click on that link. Go to your Amazon.com or pull up the Amazon app, whatever it is, and check. Is there an alert? Is it shipping? Is there, believe me, they'll say unable to complete order, verify something or something like that, or go to the Amazon support, that might come in. So yeah.
Yeah, I do that with almost everything. If somebody is telling me to go to a website or reaches out to me directly, I don't trust anything they say unless I can verify that that number or that link is accurate. If I go to a website, if I'm going to the Amazon and it says call this number, that I trust. I don't have any issues really trusting that, because I'm assuming I'm on the right website. Now, there are tricks that might be a bad assumption.
Yeah. In a perfect world, you might have Googled the wrong phone number, or sometimes if again, it's not better to don't put the phone number into Google, put the Amazon address into Google, and then do it that way, because they'll create fake websites that make it look like you're actually Googling the right thing. Or the worst case scenario on the tech side is that your computer actually got hacked and they've taken over the websites that you go to. That is a worst case scenario. And it's that whole, like, always bad things can happen. Things can happen at any time. It's just like, what can we do to kind of protect yourself? What can you do to kind of be a safety net? And like you were saying there, the Googling of the or finding their actual contact info is key. So I was saying, like, the online scams, though, like, I feel like sometimes they've gotten really, like, lazy, right? Like, I'm just thinking about how, like, back in the day, right? Like, you get like the Nigerian prince, right? And then you get the next email, like literally a day later, was like the same email from somebody else. It's like word for word and all that. But like how now, and maybe this would maybe go more into business side, right? How they're doing and saying things, right, that make you feel like you're talking to maybe a real client or a real possible customer, and what their goal maybe is to get maybe your credit card, or to help you maybe help launder some money for them. So there's an interesting one that goes around. We get emails for them, and then sometimes they recently started. I call this a new kind of scam that's happening through your Google My Business profile, and it's the Messenger. Right, there's a messenger where you can message back and forth with people, and so instead of them emailing you, they're using a messenger account, almost like how, like, Facebook or whatever. So what they'll do is they'll ask you, oh, I have a website, or I have an event coming up, can you help me with that, and do you take credit cards? And it's like that question, the do you take credit cards? Because I mean, it's to 2022. I mean, what do you know of any businesses that don't really take credit cards? Minus like the few mom and pops that probably been around since 1980.
Yeah, very, very few places don't take some form of credit card.
I don't think that there's a single web company that probably doesn't take, or when invoice or some other thing that allows them to do it, or maybe like an events company or a DJ or another, again, general one that would take like a down payment or something like that, would always use a credit card. So, and normally what this scam is, for those that like all of a sudden start coming into it, suddenly you'll say, hey, no problem, let's jump on a call, and they'll be like, I can't, I'm hard of hearing, or they'll tell you that they just had a operation and they can't hear, or they just lost their voice, or whatever it is. And as you get into further conversations, that's red flag number one, right? And in this world of scams, right, as soon as you get that one red flag, it's a quick pause and move on, right? It should be that thing, but maybe you're nice and trying to do a customer service thing. The second thing they'll do is ask you to charge a credit card for 20,000, even though maybe your fee is 10,000. And then they said, and if you could just write us a check for the 10,000 difference, I have to overcharge it because of I need to use up and get my points, or they'll have some other thing that sounds cool or it sounds helpful. And unfortunately, what they're really doing is they probably have a stolen credit card. It's a money laundering thing, and they don't want to be the one associated with that credit card. So they're going to make you charge it, then you charge it, and then at that point, you send them the 10,000. You as your company will never get paid on that 20, but you just gave away 10,000, probably like Western Union or moneyed order, or checked it over to somebody, or you gave them your bank account number, and then they just stole all the money in your bank account. So there's, just silly things like that just exists out there. And yeah.
And it's definitely annoying when you get a lead that comes in, a contact, and it comes in maybe through your website or through Google My Business or any of these contact leads, and you want to follow up with these potential leads and potential clients and do the right customer service thing, which is go the extra mile for your potential clients.
Right.
But you do have to have those goggles on to keep an eye out for those red flags. And if they start popping up, do you suggest just basically shutting down immediately, or just standing your ground and being like, look, I'm not going to overcharge you. I'm not going to be sending you money if it's outside the realm of a normal business transaction. If you're willing to play by my rules, we can continue this. Or do you suggest as soon as those red flags pop up, tell people to just stop engaging?
I would say probably just stop engaging. It's not going to probably be anybody real at that point, especially if they've asked you to overcharge, or if like you've seen the I can't talk, or I'm hard of hearing, and things like that. And especially in like for us, like web, like we normally need to talk to people, right? There's normally a conversation. I don't think we've ever done a website where it wasn't at least a phone call that we had with them. Maybe we didn't necessarily see them in person or Zoom, but there was some sort of like audio kind of communication that we were able to connect with them and see their business and know more about. And a lot of times too, they're saying that they have something new. They don't even have anything yet, right? So you can't even verify or validate them. That moment right there, I would say you could probably stop talking with them and probably just let them know, hey, I don't think I'm a good fit. Have a good day. And just kind of end it as much as you can. If you want to be, nice and kind, and just do it that way. Because again, most of the time they're just going to move on to the person that's going to keep kind of talking with them or working with them. So the more you can do to stop it, the better. If you definitely notice that you're getting a few that they're all asking the same question and things like that, you could then start either marking them as spam or doing, reporting them, because at that point, chances are like I've seen one where for the website thing, I think we've gotten a dozen emails about somebody opening up an agricultural website with some sort of tree nut or something that they need to sell in Florida or something, and we need your help in doing it or whatever. And it literally is the same thing. I got one through Google Messenger and I got one through email, right? And so it's like very obvious that this is. And so as soon as I saw that, like, oh, do you do websites? Yes. Oh, can you help me with this? I saw the wording and I knew. So I was able to just spam, goodbye, not going to bother with it. And we can move on. And hopefully, and over time, Google's gotten better, right? Our phone's gotten better at telling us spam risks and things like that. There's just these other moments that catch you off guard, catch in situations where maybe you don't know that it's a true scam at that moment.
When you're dealing back and forth with somebody who's emailing you or messaging you, is it a good chance that that's an actual person you're talking with who is thinking and adapting to what you're saying, or are you dealing with a bot?
Most of the time, most of these scams, there's an automation step to kind of throw the usual hook out there. But once you kind of connect to that hook, right, by messaging back, unfortunately, a lot of times it's now taken over by a human being. So unfortunately, they're going to adapt to what you say a lot of times, and might say something like that might touch at you or speak to you, or might sound really good, right? It might just be that they're copying and pasting something in there, but they're going to answer to you like they are a real person a lot of times, unfortunately.
No, that's interesting that it could be automated to start, but then a real person takes over at some point. Because I've had interactions in the past where the first initial wave of contact, everything, it's clear, it makes sense. There's no red flags that I pick up on. And then it's just as you continue the conversation, you start to realize when you get to the point where you start asking for details, they're avoiding giving you specific details about the particular transaction. Maybe they keep harping a certain point that is kind of an odd request. And you need to answer, like in my situation when I was dealing with it, I needed some basic questions answered before we could move forward. They kept avoiding that and trying to push everything forward. And then every round of communication, the English got worse and worse and worse, which I found to be interesting. So at the end, we had a message that started where I didn't pick up on any red flags. It felt like a very standard inquiry. And by the end, I had to stop communication with it because it just had too many red flags. And there was never a real ask at that point. There was never a link for me to send or never asking for credit card. It was just, it just felt very strange on what the goal was.
Right. And maybe, again, some of them move a lot faster to that end goal, but some of them will unfortunately maybe go on meetings, take you on a ride, right? That makes you think, real things, or they'll like in the, do you accept credit cards? Yes. Okay. Can you send me an invoice right now? Type of thing. It's like, what, oh, will you do a website for, and they'll ask for it at a amount that most companies would obviously say yes at, right? Maybe they'll be like, for 20,000, will you do a website for that? It's like, well, yeah, that's a good amount, would definitely be above what our asking price is, or what a general average site would be for a 10-page website or whatever they're asking for. And so it's like, okay, well, that right there is the red flag. But yeah, if they start like continue talking to you, it's harder to maybe you'll let your guard down and not notice, right, that maybe the English is bad, or you give them the benefit of the doubt, but realize that again, what's their end goal, or why do they, if you have a process in place, which probably in the past you did, right, okay, I did this and I got that information, got that, but they're not answering my questions. Why? Spoken to 99 other people, why is this 100th person unable to kind of follow my usual kind of course of action? So
do you have any advice for businesses or individuals on things to do, to maybe systems to put in place to protect yourself? Because like you said, even tech savvy people have moments of weakness where they potentially fall for things and they click the wrong thing or just happen to give the wrong information, and you let your guard down for one moment.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things, and some of it's just, some of the kind of like the obvious, right? Like if you're talking to somebody, maybe through Messenger, again, do a little due diligence, Google them, get an email, get a phone number, get an address, something, right? Because in theory, right, if you were to do any sort of business with somebody, you'd want that information. Probably you'd want to know at least the bare minimum, and anybody that would want to do business legally would have that information and be able to share it, and you'd be able to Google it and actually come up somewhere and you could kind of verify. So I would usually just implore people, just take a minute and take a look and do some Googling. The other thing too that I would mention, this is a little bit more of just like, hey, how can we just be safe online? Right? How can we just be a little bit better? And maybe some of the scams that we sometimes get are, you've probably gotten it where somebody's old AOL account got hacked, and all of a sudden you get a link from somebody with just one link in it, right? It's like, hey, why is Mike sending me one link from an account that I haven't seen an email from him in 20 years? Is probably like an old password, a password that they probably used 95 times. They probably used it on Netflix, and they probably used it on this website that got hacked, and they probably used it on AOL or Yahoo back in the day or something. And like in those moments, like that's why we always just advise like changing your passwords, having secure passwords. And in that moment, it's not just to protect you, but probably to protect others around you, so that way your email doesn't become the thing that is the scam or the thing that goes out. There's scams going on Twitter. I know where they're verified accounts. So they're probably accounts
Mm.
that are getting hacked or getting somehow verified through the Twitter process, which is somewhat of a hassle to do, that look legit and are messaging and telling you that you won something, and things that are semi-relevant to what's going on in some of the NFT or tech space that Craig and I were seeing. And so just because and I saw it just the other day, and again, it was like half awake at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and I was like, is that real? Did I actually win something? It says I won something. I sent it to Craig and took a screenshot. I was like, hey man, we get a minute, because that's mostly his thing. I was like, is this real? And he like responds back, oh, this scams, we get them all the time. But I saw the blue check, I saw some of the things. So it's like, if I maybe drilled into things and realized, oh, that person's not even on the project, that person shouldn't be involved. So there's those things that we can just take a pause and look at it, and always just go back to the source. Right. So we talked about the Amazon, go back to Amazon. I'll bring up another thing that we get in web all the time too, is I'll get emails for domains, or I'll get things in the mail, pieces of paper that says my domain is needing to be renewed or something like that. And I would maybe scams. It's a scam. It's what would you call it? I almost fell for it, where like there was a directory that they make you like check a box. And literally what they are doing is like, by checking this box, we'll bill you $150 or whatever. And then they send you a bill, and you're just silly enough, and you just pay it because you're like, oh, I already agreed to this directory or whatever. But what would you call that? It's not really necessarily a scam. It's legit, but not legit.
Deceptive.
Yeah, it's a deceptive thing. You'll get things in the mail if you have a domain a lot of times, because a lot of times your information or your business is out there. So like if you get something in the mail and you're like, do I have to pay this? We get this from clients all the time. It's a great question, right? Hey, do I have to pay this bill? And it's like, oh, hold on a second. Think about where, do you know where your domain's registered, right? Is it registered with Domains USA Incorporated? Probably not. And then, okay, is it GoDaddy? Is it Namecheap? Is it through, domains.com or google.com, or where's your domain registered? Take that pause. You can look it up online or talk to one of us, right? Email us, message us, and we can look it up for you. There's ways. But before you go paying it, look and see where your domain is, and then go there. It'll tell you when your domain actually renews and what you can do. And a lot of times too, the big probably red flag on those moments, right, when we get things in the mail, is the dollar amount. Right, most domain renewals are $15 or $20. It's kind of silly, because I think if they just asked for $20, unfortunately, people would probably just write a check and send it in the mail.
Yeah.
But they're asking for $200 or $150 or $400. I had one for like $500. I was like, I mean, who would do it? But if you're in a business where there's 7, 8, 10, 11 people, and admin assistant gets that, they quickly think, oh, I gotta pay that for my boss. So and unfortunately somebody will pay it right away. And so things like that are the things that might come up for a small business that they don't know to necessarily pause about, do a little bit of due diligence before they jump in thinking that they're solving a problem.
And, we do allow people to ask questions during this webinar. So if you're on the webinar itself, you can click on the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom webinar, ask your question there. You can also throw your question in on either Facebook or YouTube, where we're streaming live. And we did get a question on Facebook, David, from Shay. She's asking about, her biggest issue with scams as a business owner are just not knowing what places to trust to handle things like forming your LLC or buying a business address or things like that, where these are official steps that you want to take, and it's critical you get them right.
Yeah.
But it feels like there's so many, just like you said with the domain registration, there's so many different companies out there that'll say, come to us, you need this documentation. You have to send us a check for $250 and we'll get it for you, but you could go directly to the state and do it for 50, let's say.
Oh yeah. Right. I get workers' comp things, right? They're telling me that they'll send me a thing to put up on my wall here. People probably get that too, for $100, for $150, and I get it for free from our insurance company. So it's like, I don't need that. Two things there. when it comes to setting things up and building a business, yes, if you have, like, we help businesses do that all the time, right? We are always working for our clients on that, and take care of them, and we'll guide them and point them in the right direction. Now, we don't normally be the ones to register them, right? That's also that red flag. We'll walk them through. Maybe we pull up a laptop and we'll do it together and bring them to the website or show them where they need to go. So either you have somebody you can trust, somebody that you're in business with, somebody you could kind of go through that path. But the other thing would be to go to those websites, right? So maybe for Florida, right, it's the Sunbiz, right, is where you got to register for the LLC and then follow the steps in there. Now, it's not a lot of steps, but there's a couple steps, and maybe that's overwhelming, or maybe you don't even know that Sunbiz is where you needed to go because you're in Florida. Maybe you're outside of Florida, right? We have clients all over the country. I don't even know what to do if I was probably, in certain places. It's going to be possibly even different in terms of the registration. And in those examples, a lot of times there's organizations locally. So there's companies like SCORE or stuff through like the SBA that will actually walk you through. So you'll a lot of times get like a somebody can help you set up your business. And I would say, if you don't know or not sure, you don't have a marketing company or a person that you can like lean on, right, that maybe knows how to develop a small business, would be to use one of those organizations like SCORE or SBA that can help point you in the right direction. And they have people literally for free that will sit down and help you. They're not going to necessarily help you create legal documents and things like that, but they'll help you make sure that you're talking to the right people and that you went to Sunbiz and this is the steps you need to follow. Some of the things that we do when we onboard startups or onboard new clients, but overall, having a trusted organization like that is key.
So much like in just finding businesses to work with in general, referrals from people you know and trust are huge. Mm-hmm. And putting in a little due diligence to make sure that the company you're looking at, the website you're looking at, is legit. There's certain things that you can see on the website that, sometimes it could be as simple for me as not the like .com. If they don't have a .com or a .org or a .gov, if there's a .gov, for me, that's just instant trustworthiness, just like the blue check on Twitter, which you just told me doesn't always work. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if that's the same way with .gov either. But that's something that I do when I'm looking at website sources. I will look to see what those last three letters are, just to see how trustworthy they are.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, right, exactly. Is it, and then if you Google for that organization, right, what shows up? Is it an ad? Is it organic? Is it under is the same web address that you're on the same place that you're on? Or are you on like Register My Business Florida, we can do it for you for $100.com? It's like, oh, maybe not as legit as I thought it was, but it sounded good, or it got you there for a reason. But then realize, okay, I need to register my business, Florida, Sunbiz. Got it. That's where I need to go. Not there, but maybe it looks the exact same. I clicked on the link because I was a silly man, and it looked like the website I would need to go to, and they want me to then feel trusted, but it was not the right place. And I was like, that URL seemed wrong anyway. So
again, look at the URL, look at the website, ask for referrals. Unfortunately, you have to do your diligence. The internet is a dark and scary place at times, but it's also a place of wonderful opportunity. It is the modern day wild, wild west, it feels like.
Yeah, and kind of prepping for this webinar, I did a 2-minute Google search just to see what scams happened in the 1800s, right? Because we didn't have like the FBI then, which has like the fraud protection, or AARP, Citizens Watch or whatever that exists out there to help people know about stuff that's coming. It was like, what was that like? And, unfortunately, it was similar things, more in person, or things that somebody would literally sell a horse for, again, $10, and then somebody would come and buy it for 20, but the whatever it was that they would put down for the 10 would or the 20 that they put down wouldn't go, and so then you were pretty much out the $10. There was a whole thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the same thing that I'm seeing in the other space. It's like, it's just like, do I need a horse, and am I just trying to, like, right place, right time? Do I trust the person, and how where should I be in this moment? good, bad, feel a little off about this person, move it on.
And I know we're pretty much out of time, but just
Yeah.
real quick, what do you do if you think you've been scammed or realize that too late, oh, this is a scam, I've made a mistake? How do you move forward? Because it happens.
Oh yeah, and this is going to sound really, really, really bad, but I'm going to say it. You got to raise your hand real fast and admit that you were wrong to all that you've maybe, if it was your bank account, let the bank know ASAP. If there was something to do with the phone service, maybe let your phone provider like AT&T or something know. If it's through like your domain, maybe you got to let Google or GoDaddy or somebody know what you gave money to, because they can lock, they could protect, they could do things, right? And then maybe at that point, they might also point you in the right, a lot of them have fraud departments and things. And a lot of times, like your credit card has those protections, but the faster that you usually put blocks, communicate on it, the faster they can stop these things. And I know it's sometimes real depressing, right, that we get scammed and we fall for these things. And I think it happens to everybody at some point, just matters how far down we go on that path. But we all got really close to it. And we got really fortunate that the two of us got a pause on what we were about to do, but we almost became that. And we almost did it. But if it happened, then we got to stop and say, okay, I got to disconnect what I did and start over and pause whatever it was that I connected or shared to make sure that doesn't continue to happen.
Great advice. Thank you, David.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Mike, thanks so much for filling in and being an honest participant in this and talking about scams. And hopefully, again, we educated and maybe even pulled back the fear that scams happen and that what we need to look for and how we can kind of improve on it. And if anybody has any questions or needs anything or wants to run something that just seems a little off by us, we're here to help. We want to be of advice and good service, and hopefully we can assist others. So thanks again.
Fantastic.
Appreciate everything.
All right. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Take it easy.